Okay, so today we're going to discuss an issue that's called group deploy tokens. And it's currently in the milestone for 12.8. I went ahead and marked this stretch, even though it was marked as deliverable, because I think it's rather large to achieve in one milestone. But I do want to discuss what our options are and what the best way to do this. I guess the optimal way to do this in the right way without having to redo it in the future, and also keeping it small enough so that we don't deliver this in 6 months. Okay, so that's basically the point. And the idea is that we have lots of projects, and some of them might have want to use the same deploy tokens. And the way that users are doing this today is that they're going inside the individual projects and copying the token from one project and pasting it in another project. And when this obviously can't scale when we're talking about lots of projects, even tens of projects, and it's really a nightmare to monitor. So this is why this is important. And we can see this is a rather popular issue. There's like 170 people that are voting on it, and 213 people who actually mention something and spend time writing something on this. So it's a very popular issue, so it must be very painful for other users that are also quiet. And oh, there's Shinya. Hi, Shinya.
Hi, sorry. Hi, Shinya.
So we just went through like why this is a pain, Shinya, and that this is a popular issue. And the goal of this meeting is to try to scope down the minimal work that we can do to achieve this quickly without having to redo the work. So in my last comment, which I posted this week, I suggested that one method that we can do in order to achieve this is to we already have project groups, so you can add specific projects to a specific group. And I had suggested to kind of use the tokens that currently exist in any one of the projects today. And if they belong to the same group, then let's just pass the token forward. There may even be an API already existing that does that, but maybe we just need to rework on an API that does that. So that was one of my thoughts of how we can do this simply. We did have a user that commented on this here. So I would love to see this implemented in the same way as SSH deploy keys was another method. Shinya had already scoped down this work for, I guess, 6 stages, which is creating a group level repository and expanding the project level architecture, and then, I don't know, foreseeing some tech that we probably introduce, and expanding the API and documentation, and Sarah also needed to work on front end on top of that. So this seems rather large, and I would like to see how we can make this a little bit smaller. So I would love to hear from you.
Actually, the list includes includes front-end work. I mean, these 5 items are big category, not specifically mentioned, not specifically talking about the backends, but it's more like a future level perspective, the functionality level perspective. And once we've done these 5 tasks, I think we pretty much done this issue. Sorry, I failed to understand your point. At first, you mentioned like the alternative plan.
So again, this is currently measured as a weight of 5, which is rather large, which means it would take us at least 3 milestones to achieve. And the problem with the scope here is that we need to get every single one of these done in order to see any kind of benefit for the user.
I split the module requests. I estimated that there are 5 module requests needed, but I don't really see that this is big. I mean, like the number of module requests is relatively might be relatively greater than the other issues, but the implementation itself is very pretty straightforward. There are no points that we are confused or there are no points that we stumble upon. So I don't really see that this issue is big as you're concerned. And at this moment, I don't have any ideas we can scope down any further than this. It's pretty much minimal from my perspective. But I'm still open to a new proposal if there's a way to scope down this, and if we can ship this feature as soon as possible.
So what do you think about the suggestion of passing forward tokens that belong to the same group, if the project belongs to the group of projects?
Which is commented at the bottom part?
It's one before the last. So if a project belongs to a group, any token from one of the projects in the group can be passed and used in another project.
This is not group level. In general, this is not group level architecture. So you mean that if the token is defined in the project, it can be used in the other project that belong to the same group, right?
Yes.
It's pretty different from, for example, environment variables, like the other like clusters. Clusters or shared runner, group level runners. For example, when you define a group level runner at the group level, it's not. I mean, it doesn't work like you suggested here, like automatically inherited to the group level and then it's shared. It's
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I'm just finding out about this comment here. I was away yesterday, so that's why I'm just catching up now. This here, that sounds like an interesting idea, but would it be something that's like outside of the minimal scope? Like the minimal scope.
I'm trying to find a minimal scope, so I don't mind changing it.
Okay.
I'm also, if you both think that we can deliver this within a single milestone, that we don't need to rescope it, even though it's 5 MRs. So
I spent some time reading that on Friday, and I think well, first off, which I think thanks very much, Shinya, for like breaking down the tasks. I think it's very accurate about what what needs to be done. Now, when it comes to a minimal deliverable product that we can ship, I feel like what we can start off is just taking care of the API, not do anything related to front end. There is already an API documentation for the project deploy token that we have today. I'm sending that over chat, and I believe that's, to me, the minimum that we can do, or like
so for example,
just modify the API to do the group deploy token and not take care and not do anything on the front end. Front end can be done on another iteration. To me, that's
so you might. Thanks. So you might concern that front end portion, but actually front end is just copy and paste. Because it's already implemented for project level. We can just copy and paste to group level.
And I believe there would be a bit of refactoring, right? I feel like at the Vue.js level, they may need to refactor into modules or or components.
Yeah,
That's the right word.
which doesn't
Yeah.
need to be in
Yeah.
the same milestone. So we can we can follow up that refactoring later in the next milestone.
Yeah.
What are we refactoring? Can we elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, I think someone who's like a front-end developer would be better suited to answer this question. But I think that since the same view is going to be like shared across like the project group, the project deploy token page, and the group deploy token page, I think the refactoring needs to happen because it's like the same component being used in like two different pages. So in addition to adding the group token UI, there may be a bit of refactoring. But as Shinya said, that can be done in the same iteration. But it doesn't have to be done in that iteration right now.
So let's say we go for the proposal, OLID's proposal. Probably we need to introduce project level config, because if we start sharing the project level token to the group level, it could cause a security concern. It will be different with security concern because the other project also can be read by the same token, which is sometimes unintended. So we definitely need to some gate project level config or group level config. At least we need to ship that and disable it by default, and then users going to enable it, like the config, the checkbox enable it, and then the behavior you suggested will be activated. At least, yes, from security perspective, this is a minimum requirement, I suppose.
I was thinking about that also the other day, and to me, that's the one topic I will need to follow up on with you, Shinya. It's just like everything related to restriction and security.
Yeah, so basically, the tokens defined at the group level is already acknowledged by users that it's safe to expose to the whole project under the group. So it's relatively unimportant.
Yeah.
To as compared to the project level.
Is there like a public versus private project problem that we might have a problem there of check this box and it goes everywhere, including public projects? I guess if you're not an admin, you couldn't see those anyway, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need the security team to be involved here?
As long as we follow the original proposal, we don't need because it's basically it's opt-in. Users can enable it, on their own responsibility.
Okay. So going back to the original proposal, can we currently scope this into two milestones, one for API and one for UI?
One for API, one for UI.
That's how I see it. And the documentation plus removal of the feature flag, which is also like a very valid MR, a necessary MR. I'm not quite sure to which milestone it would. Yeah, it would be in the first milestone, I guess. It would belong to the first milestone.
Would the API be behind the feature flag? I mean, if we don't expose it, how would people know to use it?
I think Shinya put that checkbox because I think it's important to deliver a feature at the same time as the documentation, so that stop me if I'm wrong, Shinya, please, but like you can like deliver the feature, hide it behind the feature flag, and then as soon as the documentation is out, you remove the feature flag so that the feature is made available. So True. I think that's just a timing concern. Is that correct, Shinya?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
but still, we have different documentation for API and different documentation for UI.
Sorry, I don't follow what are you talking about? The API? You mean API for controlling group level token.
For adding or removing to a group or something along that line, right?
You can apply a token to all repos, right? Through an API call, which is not exactly
So
the same.
at the bottom of the API page, it says adding deploy keys to multiple projects. So this already exists, right? It's somehow leveraging this in order to reach the entire group.
I think this is something that exists because the group token don't exist. I feel like
I think
yeah, go
isn't
ahead.
it just using project level API? It seems just iterating the project ID for all the groups, the target groups. So yeah, I feel this is more like a workaround
Yeah,
today.
I see that as a workaround, as a hack a bit too. I think this may need to go out once the group deploy token are delivered.
Yeah, once it is shipped, deploy group level deploy token, we can just suggest users that please use it instead of this workaround.
Can I do note or something?
But this is somewhere along the lines of my idea, which was if they belong to the same group, then you can use the same token.
Sorry, I'm not following you over it.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, if we decide to do a different approach, I don't want to elaborate on my suggestion. So going back to the issue, what are we saying we're starting from? Because we need to create a group level repository setting. This is regardless if it's UI or API anyway. We need this for both, correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Second, this one as well. I would propose to not deal with tech debt for at least the first iteration and wait till we actually accumulate the tech debt before planning it.
So extended project level, this line means we need to extend schema, database schema for group level setting. In GitLab, in any group level features, like I said, group level runners or group level clusters, each architecture has a correct table schema. And we needed to follow the exact same thing for deploy tokens.
Okay. So because we're changing the schema, is that why you anticipate we're going to have tech debt, like cleaning up the database rows or backfilling or something like that?
No. It's a bit different. Actually, this might not be a concern, but I read some issues about there's some performance concerns on deploy token API, and it might be deploy key API. So I'm not really, I'm not 100% sure if this item is legitimate. But the point is that when we introduce the new API or whatever, the new feature, we want to make sure that it's performant in any cases. Yeah, I'm going to check that again if it's relevant still.
Okay.
And if it turns out that it is relevant, I think Orit is right. I think it may be better to take care of this technical debt once the group level tokens are implemented, so that we can, we may need to address that technical debt differently after implementation of the group deploy tokens. So yeah, I think Orit is right.
Okay, so great. We got one MR down. and then allow the group level tokens in API authentication. Is that like extending, creating group tokens and not the individual one that we just discussed? So it's changing this deploy keys to a group level one, or like adding a new API.
Yeah, that's how I understand it.
Okay, well, this one is the first thing that we can deliver that actually gives customer value. So if we can do these three in one milestone, I'm happy. And then we can deal with everything in the settings, and hopefully Sarah can get it done in the same milestone, but if not, it's not the end of the world. And then we add it to the UI as well. And documentation and feature flag removal would be one for API and one for UI, correct?
Yes, but actually the previous point is a bit different. It's more like internal group level allowance, group level tokens allowance. So actually this point wants to say that today when clients request repository via deploy token to GitLab, only project level token is supported, but we need to extend it for group level tokens. So it's more like a client server connections, and then this doesn't include controlling deploy tokens. I mean, adding deploy token or removing a deploy token. There's a way to support it via API, but I don't really expect that we are doing that at this moment because we have a UI.
Yes,
right?
but
So yeah,
not everyone loves using the UI. Some people like to use scripts, especially if you have like 100 projects. So it's definitely valuable to be able to do that, in my opinion.
True. So it could be a trade-off, or yes, yeah, I understand your point. So we should support the adding, removing, the controlling the deploy, group level deploy token entries via API. If the current portion is too big, maybe we can consider that this is follow-up in the next milestone. Well, even there is a way that we use only API, public API, to control even front end.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, this requires front end refactoring. Sometimes it's massive refactoring. So I'm not sure if it's possible. We could ask Sarah if she can handle it, but I don't think so at this moment.
Okay. So I think we have a game plan. I like the public API option very much. And I would prefer front end to use the API instead of something disconnected that may have two different results if we do it through UI and through API. So concluding, what are our thoughts in terms of when this would be accomplished? How many milestones?
So I expect that if front end and back end can put our efforts in this issue, in this milestone, it's possible to achieve this feature in 12.7, 12.3. What's the next? 12.9? Sorry.
9 is 8. The next one. Now we're in 8.
Sorry. Okay, okay. 12.9. I believe that is possible because we have exact 1 month, right?
We have 5 weeks actually for 12.8.
Okay, so okay, 25 working days, more or less. Yeah. Yes, if it's already labeled as release P1, right? So we really push hard this issue in this milestone because previously, in the previous milestone, I was 0.5% in the milestone, and yeah, we couldn't really allocate time for this issue. So, what is Etienne? Etienne is going to work on this issue.
Well, while you were away, we saw how many issues you're assigned to, and we felt bad for you, Shinya.
All right, sorry, Etienne. I just realized that. I mean, yeah. I'm not sure which one will work on this issue. It's up to
We need to follow up with Davi because I think he assigned me to that issue here.
Okay, I got it.
Like almost done with like the assigned 12.8 issue. Not quite, but yeah. So he was like, "Oh, that's cool. Would you like to take over that?" And then I thought that it was like a very very interesting issue to take on off. But he said that because you were away. So yeah, need to follow up with him with regard to like whatever you have with 12.8 or 12.9.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so let's talk with Darby later, and then which one is going to take over this.
Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone. I will post the video on the issue. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.